Peace. Welcome to the Knowledge Yourself radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace, to rule Allah.
Peace. Jakil Naj Allah.
And we'd like to welcome you to another broadcast of the Knowledge Yourself radio show on the Wisdom Born Day, what we call December the 29th. So, as each show is, we're going to focus today on the Gregorian year that was. This show is brought to you by Global Position Solutions at globalpeace-solutions.net. You can follow us or get in contact with us at knowledgeyourselfradio.weebly, that's spelled WEEBLY.com. We are broadcasting live from Sage Studios in Inglewood, California. And if you would like to contact Mr. David Clark, you can contact him at DAVID at Sage, that's spelled SAGEFILMS.net. And to further promote this beautiful studio, Mr. Clark provides all of his patrons with, wow, among other things, portraits, portraits for weddings, headshots, portraits for team sports. He also does custom printing, graphic design, film production for some of you potential directors out there, as well as studio rental, and finally Final Cut. So this is just a list of several things that Mr. Clark provides to his patrons out of Sage Studios. So please get in contact with him at area code 310-674-1105. He's located on 1321 North La Brea Avenue in Inglewood, California. So why don't we go ahead and move forward in today's show. And it's a really special show, you know, that we all agree, because we're only a few days away from a new year, what we're going to call the Happy Now year. So in this case, the goal for our show today is to review what the mainstream news failed to review. So we're just approaching this show like a reflection of news events that may have been brushed over in the mainstream media. But of course, like they always do, they just present the controversy and then it disappears, and there's hardly ever any follow-up to come. So that's what our job is today. I'd like to give it over to Jerul to hit you with the quote of the day.
Yeah, peace. So,
Peace.
the quote comes from Edward Payson Powell, and it's, "The old year has gone, let the dead past bury its own dead. The new year has taken possession of the clock of time. All hail the duties and possibilities of coming 12 months."
Peace. So as far as the duties of the next 12 months, what does everyone have in mind as far as what our duty is as black men?
Well, you know, we got to take responsibility for the condition of our communities. We can't expect any government or outside force to come in and do the job that we're supposed to be doing ourselves.
Right.
I think really coming together as a collective, because, you know, one thing I was building with a friend of mine yesterday about was that, you know, we do have a lot of enlightened black men and women, but we tend to be separate instead of really coming together as one and seeing how we can, you know, uplift each other as a collective. So I think that unity is essential, you know, man.
Yeah.
How do you see it, God?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I agree, God. You know, we definitely need to work on strengthening bonds within the community, within ourselves. You know what I mean? And that's everything from supporting your local black business to just supporting your, you know what I'm saying, your people. You know, in your neighborhood or wherever they may be at. So I'd say that's definitely these next 12 months is definitely what we need to focus on as a people. It's just more uniting amongst ourselves and kind of throwing away all the BS or the things that, you know, aren't necessarily a priority, and taking care of things that are important. You know what I mean? Our school systems, you know, they're throwing our people in jail at high rates, healthcare issues, you know what I mean? Things like that. If we work on, we can definitely solve those problems within ourselves. We don't need any government agencies or anything like that to fix those kind of things.
Right. Deep. I think one of the most important things that came out just in what my brother said is the concept of duty and what that means. And I think aside from having a responsibility for yourself, it's just also having a responsibility for the next 12 months for those who are around you. Of course, some people place certain limitations on that, and of course, it's always up to you to decide that. But I just think being a man, it's really important for me to make sure I help people that are consciously trying to change the way things are going on the planet Earth at the moment. Because it could be way better. I don't think people can even perceive how much better it could be,
Right.
but it could be way better than things are. So that would be one of my duties for the next 12 months. So
Let me add on. I want to say,
please.
I think, we tend to always look at our own communities, and obviously that's first and foremost because you got to take care of home first. But I think we as black men specifically have to present ourselves in a fashion that is conducive to righteousness outside of our communities because we tend to have a negative stigma attached to us, that we're not good parents and we're not this and we're not that. So you know dealing with that subconscious mind, whether it's yellow seeds or brown seeds or people in different communities, um, they tend to have a already preconceived notion about us. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, even we have that same preconceived notion about ourselves. So I think it's important that as black men, we got to be righteous, man, and then present ourselves in a fashion that is, conducive to positivity. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think one of the things that I picked up on is the whole word community, and part of that is to commute,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I see my community as wherever it is, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going to bring
Mm-hmm.
unity.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so I agree, God. Whether it's our own people, right, or just people in general. You know what I mean? We definitely need to strive to uh, to deal with civilized people, no matter where they are, what they look like.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And work towards that common goal.
Hmm. Indeed, and in terms of community, I wanted to put this out there that sometimes we're real hesitant to exile people that are bringing trouble in the community,
Mm.
and I think older people will tell us, if they're in their 60s and 70s and they or 80s and they lived in those times where the neighborhood or the community raised the children, you really couldn't get away with anything if a
Yeah.
neighbor saw you get away with it.
Right.
Now times have changed. You have adults that are afraid of children.
Mm.
So um, let's keep in mind that maintaining a sense of community, where our people live, it's really important that we not be afraid to exile certain people. That's just, however that looks.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
well said. Why don't we go into the current events? I want to give it over to Jaquil, who's going to hit us with some hot news. Hit him with that warm, cold current. Peace, God.
Indeed, peace. So actually, I have a story that comes from ABC News, and they are basically building on the FDA was unable to prove if antibacterial soap was actually beneficial. No, and there's a lot to go with that. We could stop there and have a whole 2 hour long conversation about that one. But what they also go on to say too is that there is no evidence to prove that vitamins and minerals are actually beneficial to you. And so the way that they came about this, so on face value, again, you know what I'm saying, we are 5%, we don't take nothing on face value. But so if you were to look at it on face value, you would think, oh, well, they gave these people a bunch of vitamin C, vitamin K, which your body's supposed to make. So that tells you something else already off the people they're testing.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave them different vitamins and minerals, and they were like, see, look, it didn't improve anything. And so if you just looked at it, you'd be like, oh, well, vitamins obviously don't do anything. But to steal a verse from Jizza, if you take a look beneath the surface and ask the question why, right? Why are they saying that these vitamins aren't working? Well, there's synthetic vitamins that are coming from China. So a low, crappy version
Mhm.
that's made up to look like or emulate what the vitamin is supposed to really be, and then they're giving it to you in such low doses. So another thing that they don't tell you is that the FDA um, has recently been lowering the amount of vitamins and minerals in your foods, right? So let's say you need 50 milligrams of vitamin C, right? The FDA will say, well, no, you only need to put 25. And then they'll try and lower it from there. And then they'll give you a synthetic version of that low dose of vitamins, right? And then say, oh, look, it's not doing anything. Well, we're like, well, of course, because it's not enough to do anything. And so that's the trick that they're really trying to play on the people.
So, is there any particular brands that people can look out for
As far as
in reference to any vitamins that may come out into the pharmacies or into the market? Because I know they do these types of things, and then they kind of bring the product out under a different label, or you know.
yeah, you really need to do the research on where the vitamins are coming from and who's making them. Right, there's a lot of science that goes into vitamins, and it's a little bit more complicated than just taking a bunch of vitamin C. Right, you want to make sure first of all that it's bioavailable. Right, that it absorbs properly into the body. Yeah, so there's a lot of different things you want to look for, and so that's another thing that they're trying to do is to ban the use of vitamin C, or so that you can't get a good pure ascorbic vitamin C that's bioavailable. Yeah, so you definitely got to do your research as to who's making the vitamins, because some of them like could be synthetic vitamins, and then sometimes you get these vitamins from China. That cost a lot of money, right? But are coming from poor areas where they use like their own feces to fertilize, or because this is what we do we have a vitamin line, right? So my teacher and I have been to many different places, talked to the people who are making them at the places, right? So through watching that interaction, I've learned a lot about the whole process of vitamins and different places. So
Which, to me, a lot of us aren't going to go and do the research. Like you said, go do the research. So that's when you contact a brother like him,
yeah,
and he'll set you
Right.
straight.
right.
True indeed.
Where can they reach you?
Yep.
You guys can reach me at Jakil, JAKIL, the number 1, A7 at gmail.com, and we can talk farther there.
Thank you for that, God. Let's give it over to Jerul, because I know you have another current event for us.
Yeah, peace. So this comes
Peace.
from Houston Chronicle. And the headline is Detroit first grader takes 6 bullets to save mom.
Wow.
Now this wasn't on national news.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
6
yep.
bullets.
A young black girl, yes. She took 6 bullets. The young girl is recovering from wounds to the eye, the left temple, chin, cheek,
Wow.
um,
So there's
and
multiple
her right arm.
shots
Yeah.
to the head.
Yeah.
Huh? Wow.
Yeah. So
That's serious. And this is I mean, I didn't see anything
that's
about
what I
that
mean.
on the news.
Exactly. So basically, what happened was there was this mom, had this ex-boyfriend who she broke up with like 6 months prior.
Okay.
It seemed a little fishy, but one of her friends, called her and asked her, for some help. So she goes to her house to pick her up, and the ex-boyfriend is there. So he pulls a gun out and says, "Get in the car." So,
So
like I said,
setup,
it seemed a little fishy, but I don't know the specifics. But that's basically what the article read. But yeah, so he, makes him get in the car and basically says drive to 6 Mile. This is in Detroit, 8
Okay.
Mile and all. I don't
Yeah.
know. Things are like structured in miles like that or whatever. And she knew automatically if we go to 6 Mile that he's gonna kill us, because I guess that's where they leave the dead bodies and stuff like that.
Wow.
So she, goes to the gas. She says, "I need gas." Goes to the gas station so she could go inside, because it was the only one. The only way you could pay there is actually going inside. Which is a smart move.
Smart.
Yes. And the crazy stuff that bugged me out was this is her actually speaking. Says the first operator clicked off, and I dialed again and told the operator that a guy with a gun has me, a mom and a child held hostage and threatening to kill us. And I told her the name of the gas station, and then she said they didn't have a unit to send.
Mm.
Wow. Well, you know what though?
It is Detroit.
It is Detroit, and they're pretty much bankrupt
Exactly.
and
I give them
desolate
the benefit
anyway.
of the doubt there.
Yeah,
Um,
but still though,
Right.
I mean, the first thing that I caught on was the first operator hung up.
Wow.
They're not that damn broke,
Right.
Exactly. So, which basically it came down to, you got to take matters into your own hands,
Mm-hmm.
which this young girl did.
Wow.
Guy he pulled the gun out. Yeah, pulled the gun out on the mom and shot her. Actually hit her once, hit her in the side of the face. And then the young girl jumps in front and took the rest of the bullets.
Mm.
And they're both going to survive. So,
Wow.
peace to them, man. And
Peace. Yeah, that's
That-
really good.
how many grown folks would take a bullet for somebody? You know what I mean?
Man,
So that's powerful.
man, that is powerful.
Mhm.
I would say the interesting thing about that, they always trying to use things like that to try to bring up the whole gun issue,
Mm-hmm.
right? I would say if they had guns available to them, that little girl wouldn't have had to take 6,
Mm.
right? And where was the gas station attendant? That dude didn't have a gun.
There are a lot,
Just
there are a lot
kinda
of holes
topic.
in this
There's
story.
a lot of
man.
a lot of holes.
You know, we have a mother and a woman and a child kind of stranded out there like that. Where was, like you said, the responsibility of others.
Mhm.
In those types of situations,
Right.
people would rather walk to a murder scene than to try to intervene.
Well, I'm sure there were people watching with the cameras on, right? Trying to YouTube that shit, waiting to see what was going to
I'm
happen.
sure there was a camera on them at the gas station. You know what I mean? But it's just one of those things where I think the bottom line in this story is like we have to take matters in our own hands. Can't expect anyone else to, do what we have to do to save ourselves. You know?
Right, right.
So.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. We're going to continue to go around the round table. And my current event, I was scrolling to see if it would pop up anywhere in the news. But apparently, I was talking with a DMV representative last month, and he mentioned to me that California is no longer producing its driver's licenses. So he mentioned that it was an outside vendor who has now been hired to do that. So if you've tried to renew, if you are in the process of renewing your license, that may be why it's taking a little bit of time to reach you, because your information is being sent to an outside vendor, and then the license is produced out of state somewhere, and then it's sent back, to the state of California. So be mindful of that. How now, your information can be sent anywhere without your knowledge.
Right.
Especially, I mean, sending it to the DMV, it's kind of public knowledge anyway. But the fact that if the representative wouldn't have told me that, I would think that it was the same process as always. Like, your information stays here. Maybe I'm being naive, right?
Right. Well, I mean, you got to think California. It's not like we're a rich, thriving state and we just got money to burn.
Mhm.
Although they do burn money on dumb stuff. In any event, you got to think, okay, how many jobs did we just lose by not allowing people in California
Mhm.
to make driver's licenses?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think it's a lose-lose all the way across. We're losing jobs, and it's taking extra time to get your driver's license,
True indeed.
which is already a long process.
Right.
Going through
I mean, it takes a while, guys. So I know we have some other current events. I want to give it back to Jaquil.
Yeah. Man, this is probably like a double because we could talk about this as far as what's actually going or what happened in the news that people probably won't talk about. And this is dealing with the bailout. So
Yeah, what's up with the bailout, man? That kind of came and went.
yeah, well, right. And I was having an interesting conversation with someone, and they were of the thought pattern that GM did not close down plants in America and move them over to China.
Hmm.
And so I've got this article here from the Washington Free Beacon, and it talks about the bailout. So basically, they moved the SUV division and the small truck division to China, and then they did have that over here in America. But so what they did with that money is that instead of helping these ones in America stay open, produce more, whatever needs to be done, they decided to close those down and open up and expand similar ones in China.
Hmm.
So, that bailout money that was your money that you gave them, they used that to send jobs to China instead of keep jobs over here in America. So you have things like in Detroit, it used to be a manufacturer hub of America as far as cars, right?
Motown.
Now there's no car companies there really; they're all moving out off of your American money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the state of Detroit, again, the city is bankrupt. They're having major financial problems, and if you want to look into how their school district is doing, I mean, yes, it's
Right.
devastated.
Right.
You want to see a high percentage of Caucasians who are dropping out of high school, that would be the place to start, Detroit.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you got
Indeed.
this article talks about they've got a 55% increase in manufacturing in China since the emerging from the bankrupt, thanks to a 50 billion bailout from taxpayers. So it's they could have easily used that money to help make things better in America, which is under the premise of why we gave them that money.
Right.
And they basically said, yeah, whatever with you and your money and your jobs and your way of living, we're going to China.
True indeed. Thank you for that. Let's go back to Brother Jerul for another one.
Yeah.
Got a
This,
lot of current events for y'all each show. You know what I'm saying?
this one comes from livefreelivenatural.com. And the headline is when pregnant women take Tylenol, their children are more likely to be born with autism. What woman doesn't take a little Tylenol when they're pregnant and they're feeling, not too particularly good with the headaches and things of that nature. So,
Right.
yeah, it says as many as 65% of women are said to take it during pregnancy, but Tylenol, the active ingredient of which is acetaminophen,
There you go.
has been linked in a new study out of Norway to causing autism in children. Expectant mothers who took the drug while pregnant to deal with headaches or mild fevers were found to significantly be more likely to bear children with behavioral problems, poor language and motor skills, and communication difficulties compared to mothers who did not take the drug.
That's
So,
deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. I think part of the issue, not part of the issue, the whole damn issue, is that the Tylenol is able to break or pass the blood-brain barrier, right? So that allows it to absorb into the baby, sort of pass through the mother, and then absorb into the baby. And since it's passing the blood-brain barrier, both the mother and the child, right, it's going to affect the growth and development of that brain. And then it's just a matter of, these people are really smart in how they design things, and so automatically people say, oh well, they're not purposely trying to make things to mess you up. Although we did an article on Bayer where they were put HIV in kids' Tylenol or kids' aspirin, so they might be purposely trying to kill you. That being said, a lot of things are separated, right? So you have a guy who's working on a specific part who has no idea about the end result of how it's supposed to go down. And so that's a lot of times how they get people caught up in these things. And so I say that to say that you can design something in such a way to where once it passes the blood-brain barrier, it could interact with this specific part of the brain and stop this specific thing, or attach to this specific neuron, which will stop sending information this way and that way. So yeah, it's definitely feasible. I can see it happening. I was very particular with my girl. All three births, what are you eating? What are you taking? What are you putting in your body? Because I know how that stuff works and passes through the child.
Yeah, and when you think about medical doctors, westernized medical doctors, they prescribe Tylenol. It's okay to take a little Tylenol,
Right.
So it's just again comes back to you and us taking responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah.
Western medicine.
Exactly. Do our own research on things and come to our own understanding. Don't just base it on what a doctor says or what the news says or
or even what one website says.
Website, right?
I want to say WebMD. There was some issue going on with them where they were allowing certain things to be posted and said as truth that was not necessarily truth. So, definitely the internet is a great thing because for people who are too lazy to go to a library, you've got all that information pretty much at your fingertips. That being said, you definitely need to look at more than just one web page.
Cross-reference, definitely cross-reference, and use your own, what do they call it? Intuition a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know something's bull crap. You know what I mean?
Use your own common sense.
Exactly. So.
Thank you for that, Brother Jerul. I know you have another one to hit him with, Shaquille.
Oh, man. Okay. I will do it. I wasn't going to talk about it, but this damn Duck Dynasty thing is...
what's the Duck Dynasty?
It's crazy. I really don't know what Duck Dynasty is. I personally have never watched that show.
DuckTales?
No, not DuckTales. Ooh, slimy tails. Yeah, no, DuckTales, man, would it come on Channel 9 after like 4 p.m.? But Duck Dynasty, I will say this. These people seem to be very business-minded and smart in that manner, right? And so they've definitely made A&E, which... What else do they make? The Walking Dead, and I don't
Breaking
know.
Bad, right?
Breaking Bad. So outside of like those 3 or 4 shows, no one's really checking for A&E.
Yeah, they're struggling right now.
And so now you've got Duck Dynasty, which somehow became the #1 show on America, like ever. Go figure.
Wow.
So they've got this Duck Dynasty, and basically one of the main guys on there. Made a comment about gays and lesbians, and it wasn't anything derogatory. It wasn't anything really super offensive or mean. He just said, "I don't get it. I like women," and that was enough to be taken as a anti-gay and lesbian statement. So one of the things that I initially first said off the bat was, "Hey, what about his First Amendment right to just speak however he wants to speak?"
Right.
And so A&E obviously decided they put him on a hiatus. So they said that we don't know if he will be back, if ever, to record. And they choose to back up the gay and lesbian community, which has nothing to do with constitutional right and your First Amendment, right? And instead of backing up his First Amendment, and they're making them the most amount of money.
Man. I mean, and that's the thing. It's been said that we've gotten into a time where there is a lot of technology, a lot of tools at our disposal to communicate with others with. However, just in your person-to-person dealings, something that you say to someone could actually lead to you, being terminated from your job,
this day and age.
or even worse than that. So I just think we live in a hypersensitive society. I mean, everyone should be able to speak their mind unless they're promoting some sort of violence, on a particular group of people, which we don't. However, I mean, we should be able. I'm going to speak my mind.
Right.
I got something to say to you. I'm going to
Right.
say it to
Well,
you.
we're not on
Uh,
some big major cable network where they can fire us. So
right.
we say whatever we want to
No,
say.
indeed.
That being said, though, it gets real interesting when you do a little knowledge. Like I said, you got to look beneath the surface and ask the question why. So when you do a little knowledge into the like the ownership, A&E is owned by Disney. So we know that Disney, right, already has a certain stance on gay and lesbian issues.
I mean, they should be the ones. I mean, come on, man.
The other real interesting thing is A&E somehow was smart enough. Now I know what you guys may be saying, like Miss Cleo may not be real, but hold your thoughts now. They somehow had the foresight to know that if they stocked Walmart with I don't know, basically they made $400 million off of Duck Dynasty merchandise that happened to magically find its way into Walmart prior to this whole fiasco coming out, causing all of this media hype, right? So we know the same thing happened with like Two Live Crew, Banned in America.
Right.
The album came out and 5 people had it. Then they said, "Hey, we're going to ban this," and then everyone had it, right? And so they were able to. Maybe Miss Cleo was working for them too. But so A&E was.
Edward Bernays.
Right? Exactly. Under an alias of Miss Cleo. So they were able to pull off a cool $400 million off of this media extravaganza.
Right. Wow. So, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what next year brings in terms of media and what will be the hot shows of next year. I mean, and, the hot music. If you really think about it, those of you who are watching, think about the hottest rapper that came out about 2, 3, or maybe 4 years ago. Are they still hot? Okay, so just think about that. Just how trends change and they go up and then they go down. So, Drew, did you have any other events you wanted to give the people?
Nah, that was it.
All right. Want to move forward? All right. So why don't we go ahead and get into the show? I'd like to thank my brothers for, not only building this show, but also, always informing us of just the new information to come out, the new knowledge, or better yet to say. So we're going to get into the first segment, which is titled "The Year in Reproduction and Murder." So this has been a really interesting year. If you've been looking at some of the data or just some public occurrences in terms of murders, the stats related to abortions, and we're particularly interested in reproduction rates. We felt that this was really important for us to reflect on and share with you as a viewer, because when you monitor these things, it pretty much shows the progression of not only the human species, but just different groups of people. One thing I think we all agree on is that a word called endangered species has come up, at least among animals in the animal kingdom. But a lot of us fail to recognize that there were different species of human beings on this planet which eventually went extinct. So when we talk about reproduction and rates, we really look into those things in regards to our people. One of the things I heard before we go into this, I was speaking with a colleague and I asked him why Cleveland has one of the highest infant mortality rates. And, she basically said that her mother is OBGYN, and there were 3 reasons that she said, pretty much which leads to the high percentage of infant deaths in Cleveland. Is primarily because A, the weather, B, insufficient food, and C, access to medical and or health care for pregnant mothers. So if you look on the site, they're like one of the top one of the places in the United States that have one of the highest percentages of infant mortality. So, why don't we get into some of the information to that? I wanted to just kind of give it over to Jerul. I know there were some things that you found in regards to reproduction and murder. So we're going to hit you with both of those statistics dealing with reproduction and murder and/or death rates in regards to our people.
Well, I think it's important to note that first and foremost, when we think about original people or specifically black people as considered African American, we make up about 13% of the American population. But out of abortions, we make up 37% of all the abortions. So that statistic right there alone speaks volumes to the amount of potential great people that don't get a chance to, even come into existence on the planet. That's actual abortions. But when you think about the bill that passed that allows, what is the 72-hour pill to be taken over the counter,
Right.
and a 10, 9, 7-year-old could go and purchase that pill on their own merit and get the test done, or not get the test, but take the pill and actually
Make an abortion.
make an abortion for
Right.
themselves.
Can you repeat that last point about the morning after pill? Because a lot of our viewers or just people in general aren't aware of that. So, what is the age restriction on that particular pill?
From my understanding, there isn't a restriction now.
Right.
You can go in there and pick it up like you could, some Skittles.
Yeah.
Right.
You could get Skittles and get that at the same time.
Right.
So that right there, and a lot of what I was reading, they couldn't understand why there was a decrease in population. But you think about this year. I want to say this year is when that pill was made accessible to anyone. Without you having to go through a physician. So obviously that speaks, to that there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it when you make it so easy to get rid of your child like that. Of course, people who are in harder situations will probably take that route. You know what I mean? And then I got this article here in the Washington Post that talks about California passing or just passed its first law expanding abortion access.
Wow.
And so when you look at the rate of abortion, right, in 2011-12, it's like at its highest, like almost at 80%. And then they've got a map showing areas in which you can get abortions at, right? And it's heavily populated in areas of black and brown people. So, like I said earlier, as far as you're in a bad situation already, right? And then you get pregnant, and whereas before people would have maybe tried to struggle through that, right? You suck it up, tighten up your bootstraps and keep it moving.
Right.
Like the guy said, if you can walk into a store and buy some Skittles and an abortion pill, that'll be the easier way to go.
Right.
Wow. So, and just to piggyback on the points that my brothers made, we found some information which you can find on the National Vital Statistics Reports, Volume 62, Number 3, and it's dated for September the 6th, 2003, and it's titled Births 2013.
Yeah. Okay.
And they give the preliminary data for 2012, right?
Okay.
And one of the things when the guy and Jerul and I we were looking at this, I heard him say it dropped. So these statistics, there's an interesting table at the beginning for those of us who don't want to read maybe about 200,000 words to draw this information. They have a bar graph where they're measuring the rates per 1,000 women aged 15 to 19, which gave birth to children. And in 1991, I'm looking at the there's about 160 uh, births of those classified as non-Hispanic Black, but that figure had dropped in 2012 to around 79 or 80.
Wow.
Okay, so that's a significant drop. And then in 1991, the graph shows that there were about 100, that looks like 159, close to 160 um, births out of that 1,000 women. And as of 2012, that rate dropped to a little under 80. Okay, so those are significant drops in reproduction. So, what does everyone think? What would be some of the reasons why original people, specifically original women, are falling into this category of women who are not necessarily producing, reproducing at the rate they were, let's say, what is this? This is about 21 years ago. What's happened within the last 20 years?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. First and foremost, it's important to look at, genetically modified foods were introduced mid 90s, going into like early 2000s. So when you know and understand a lot of, how that affects, your fertility, a woman's fertility, her hormonal imbalance,
Right.
and those elements that are essential to pregnancy, then you can see how that could affect it from that one end. But then also, like I said, that abortion pill, and then just strictly abortion itself. It's basically here it says a black woman is 5 times more likely to abort her child than a Caucasian woman. You know.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't seem like they have the same standards. So, in our communities, we have abortion centers. In their communities, they have fertility centers, right? So, that alone kind of paints a certain picture in your head, right? And then, like I said, you have to think about some of these mothers might have had their babies at young ages, right? And they saw how hard it was for themselves to raise a child. So when their child gets pregnant, maybe at a younger age or age to where they don't feel that they could take care of themselves properly, they're gonna say, "Well, look, I struggled, and look at all the things that we barely have. So I'm not gonna let you do that to your life. It's better for you to just take this pill."
That's
Right.
true.
Right.
So and then that kind of thinking leads to a whole, well, who cares? I'll just have sex, and if I get pregnant, then I'll just take this pill, and it'll be okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's a major issue right now.
Wow.
One statistic I found was interesting. It says 69% of pregnancies among blacks are unintended, while that number is 54% among Hispanics and 40% among Caucasians.
Right.
So that's interesting because it really just depends on your perception of that statistic.
Okay.
So we know and understand that Caucasians, talk to any Caucasian couple, they're going to say, you ask them, well, when you having children? Oh, we're trying.
Right.
Whereas you think about black and brown and even yellow, see people coming together, they don't have to really try.
You know,
It's like, oh, you
Right.
pregnant again? Oh,
Right.
okay. You know what I mean? So I think it has a lot to do with, Caucasians have a harder time producing.
Yeah.
And, we dealt with this on another show where Caucasian people in America are at a negative birth rate.
Right.
So
Right.
their ability to procreate isn't at the same level as black, brown, and yellow. So they're trying to level the playing field by making abortion more accessible to us, making our food and a lot of other different things that we're exposed to hinder the ability to procreate at our same rate. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And that pretty much underlines. I mean, because some of us, if we're not connected with our families, the elder members of our families, we're not going to get some of these things that we're saying. We're telling you all the complexities of reproduction and pregnancy and responsibility. However, if you have some family in the South, you could ask them what would happen back in their day if a woman was pregnant, which they refer to as out of wedlock. So a woman who's not married that wound up being pregnant in several states in the South, the male responsible for the pregnancy would then be approached and told, okay, so now you have to do her right, which meant in the community that you had to take her on as your wife. Now there's such a lawlessness in terms of when you have children. Well, now it's a choice. You're going to get rid of them, or you're not going to take care of them.
Right.
Those are the choices that some of our men, specifically our men, are making.
And think about it though, that's almost promoted though.
Isn't
You
it?
know, it's being a positive, strong male role model for your children is really not promoted. You can't see it anywhere. You know what I mean?
No.
So,
No.
you know, so you think about subconscious mind and how certain imagery that you see, especially as a child growing up, affects how you see yourself as an adult subconsciously. And that affects your actions. You know, you can see why there's a certain cycle that's repeating. You know,
Right.
Man, thank you for that, Jeru.
Yeah.
Now we can't talk about murder in the capacity that we just spoke on without bringing up the police. So here's an interesting piece of data that came out of New York. It says that according to this data that was collected, the first 6 months of this year revealed that 74% of the shootings in New York, okay, were perpetrated on black victims. So about 74% of the people who were shot by the police were black. And then they have an additional 21.5% that were Hispanic. And they are primarily they were committed in what's considered poor neighborhoods, which is not surprising. If you'd like to read more about that, you can check out an article on News One, among other places, that has that information. So, I mean,
I just find that interesting. You
7
guys
out
see
of
that
10
video about the
people.
stop and kiss that's going on in New York City?
Go ahead, but hey,
It's a joke video
Yeah.
about the stop and frisk thing. But I mean, you have to think when they have the stop and frisk, guns are illegal in some parts of New York. What's your reason for shooting these people?
right.
Right? I mean, in the San Fernando Valley, there was a dude who got shot on the 118 on the 101 freeway, and he was just reaching in his pocket to pull out his iPhone. And every cop, I think it was like 6 or 7 cops, every cop there emptied their clip at this dude. I mean, so you got to think it's like, okay, if he did have a gun, do you all need to shoot at him?
Right.
How many bullets do you all need to shoot at someone?
honestly, I think that probably has a lot to do with the negative publicity that they've been, facing based on them being caught in the act of doing heinous things. So it's like if we see someone going into their pocket to grab their phone, that's an excuse to shoot them because they could be reaching for a gun. We'll get off. So then that puts fear in people to, videotape anything
right.
that they're doing.
Right.
But I think the thing about this show specifically is that most people only look at the isolated things as it relates to population growth, as opposed to looking at things in their totality. So how does abortion affect the black community? How does incarceration affect the black community? How does police brutality and police killing black men affect the black community? Like, if you look at things in more of a collective, then you can see how larger ramifications are.
For sure.
And it's pretty. It can be pretty heavy when you start looking at it that way. You know what I mean? And then you can look at it from a global perspective too. Because most people only think Planned Parenthood's in America, but now you can go anywhere on the planet and find Planned Parenthood. You know, and then you think about like the Dominican Republic, who um, are basically exiling the Haitians or anyone who has Haitian blood,
Right.
and basically because they feel like they can. You know what I mean? So you know, it's deep. It's really deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want to make a correction. The source for that, the 74% of shootings in New York by the NYPD. You can find it on the NewYorkDailyNews.com. So I apologize for that
Okay.
error. So
I
now,
want to say it was in
let's move
California.
forward.
Oh, okay. No,
No,
I was
go
gonna say
ahead.
in California, I wanted to say certain places they started making police officers wear cameras
Mm-hmm.
on them, right? And because of that, assaults from police officers have been reduced, like very dramatically.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was
So
Wow,
that was-
can you post that? Because
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely,
that would be
definitely
something
post
that I think you Facebook, Twitter folks out there would definitely want to pass that around.
I think it was in Ontario,
okay.
somewhere around there. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, you know,
They're doing stuff in my city. I don't know.
you know, you definitely, and that's what we were building on. I think earlier in the show. You know, if we allow these people to police themselves,
Wow.
right? You know, those kind of things are subject to happen. But if we as a people apply more strict rules and regulations on them, you know, those kind of things are definitely less likely to happen.
Mhm.
You know, I think a lot of this has to do with the destruction of the community itself.
Right.
Because think about it, if it was truly a community, anytime a child dies, the whole community would feel that hurt.
Right.
You know, but now it's like, oh man, glad it wasn't my son. Or
Right.
Exactly.
you might tell your son now, like, okay, well, stop going to this and doing this and this, but it's not like, oh, there's an uproar. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So they're not moving as a unit like that.
And speaking of an uproar and children, we did want everyone to reflect on Trayvon Martin and the follow-up that you know may or may not be taking place since that young man's murder in Florida. So I did kind of want to let Jerul kick that off in terms of since the case, what would be some of the most notable things that has happened in regards to the Trayvon Martin murder and botched trial regarding George Zimmerman?
Well, for me, it's, you know, no one's talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like everybody was in an uproar. Everybody was, you know, on Facebook posting pictures and
Changing the profile picture.
yeah, right. People walking around with hoodies on and this and that. But now,
Right.
but you know,
But Trayvon-
we're a few months removed from that whole, you know, that whole incident. No one's talking about it. So you know, it's like it's important to definitely look at things and be in an uproar about it, but with that energy that you're charged up with, do something that will, you know, restrict that situation from reoccurring again. Or,
Right. No, you're right, God. I think they give us, not they give us, or so you know, an incident happens like Trayvon, and everyone gets uproar about it, and then something else happens, and then everyone forgets about Trayvon. But instead of carrying on that energy that they developed from Trayvon, they start all over again at the ground,
Exactly.
and then get built back up about another issue, and that goes away, and then they start all over the ground again, get built up about another issue. And that's kind of how nothing really ever gets
Exactly. So I think that's the main thing. Like, you know, I was obviously I knew Zimmerman was gonna get off, so it wasn't like a big shock to me. But what's, you know, the biggest shock to me would be that no one's talking about it anymore.
Right.
done.
You know, out of anything. So, you know, rest in power, Trayvon, and you know, let's just as a people, like I said, get back to the community so we can stop these things from happening in our
Right.
communities. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's the biggest thing. You know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we could easily set up um, neighborhood watches within our own communities to where those kind of things can't go down because you have people walking around watching the neighborhoods.
Well, then you got dudes like him, right?
Right.
That dude was a self-proclaimed neighborhood,
Right.
and so that's why I said if we do it, if we do it as a whole people,
Yeah,
right?
it
You
has
don't
to
have
be, yeah.
this one dude, fake ass UFC guy.
Vigilante. Yeah. Yeah, it has to be a team effort. That's why I said it has to really be a community, everybody on the same page as a community
Right.
making things happen,
Right.
So um, if that's not the case, you'll probably have isolated incidents like this,
Mhm.
so
Right.
I wanted to share this because we came across this interesting uh, news brief over. It's called News One for Black America, and it's titled "Zimmerman's New Career is as Redneck Van Gogh." Not my title, but that's what they titled it. It has here December 18th, 2013 by Michael Arsenault. So what it is that it features George Zimmerman holding a piece of his art, and apparently he has this artwork for sale. And if you have a chance to look that up, it has a flag, an American flag that he painted, has God, one nation with liberty and justice for all painted on it. And I wanted to share this, and again, this is the person who was acquitted on charges of murdering Trayvon Martin. And he writes, it says in the eBay listing, Zimmerman writes, first hand painted artwork by me, George Zimmerman. Everyone has been asking what I have been doing with myself. I found a creative way to express myself, my emotions, and the symbols that represent my experiences.
Because you can't keep killing black kids. Like
Right.
Well, he did beat up his wife, so I mean that or his
Yeah.
girlfriend, so that's probably another way he was expressing
Right,
himself.
right.
They're
Uh-huh.
saying that she lied about it.
Oh, she
So,
lied about it.
however, with
Wasn't that like the second or third time that's happened?
Right.
So there's a
She's
lot
a
of lying.
habitual
women out
liar.
there.
That's called habitual.
when people lie, then there's silence, and then they lie later, and then there's silence, there may be money involved. So you got to watch out for that. He says, my artwork allows me to reflect, providing a therapeutic outlet, and allows me to remain indoors. So, I'm really interested in seeing who's actually going to purchase this off of eBay if it hasn't already been purchased for $100,000 to help out old George Zimmerman.
Well, what else would have allowed him to remain indoors is if he got arrested, if he got convicted of murder, right?
Yeah. He would have had all the time he needed to paint and get in touch with himself and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So, again, this is a show where we reflect on some of the things that kind of fell out of the mainstream. And you really have to watch these things because sometimes a person's guilt, even though you already know the person's guilty, it comes out later on, maybe 2,
Right.
3, 4, 5, maybe 10 years. Just think about JFK. So why don't we move it ahead in terms of the young black males who have been killed just within the last year. I don't know who was gonna go in about Kendrick Johnson. Because I know you brought that up one of our shows, and we were like,
Right.
So
Yeah, I think with Kendrick, he was murdered at school, so that's to me, what's most eye opening about it is like most parents think I send my child to school, he'll be safe, but Kendrick went to school and they found him wrapped in a gym mat, and then they did the autopsy and. The original autopsy and they basically said that it was no foul play involved or whatever, which he was wrapped in a gym mat. But
Right.
Okay.
That's not foul.
Yeah. So the parents were like, "Man, there's something about this that's not right." So they wanted to get another autopsy, and they opened up the child, and there are no organs inside. So that makes it even more suspect, right? You know what I mean? So you could say because there are a lot of black children that go missing, and a lot of them are found without their organs. So there's a market for organs.
I was
Um,
going to say they do the same thing to prisoners in China,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. So it could be about that. But I think the bottom line is another black man, young man who died or was killed and didn't get a whole lot of coverage. So what does
Mm.
that state? What does that say to me or to another young black man or child that you're not important?
Not
Right.
important.
Your life's not important. You die and it's whatever. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That's how it's basically supposed to be. But
Right.
a little girl, little Caucasian girl, goes missing, and you have a 2-year news. What was it, Lacey
Oh,
Peterson or
right,
whatever?
right. Uh-huh.
Had like a 2-3 year stint of news coverage on that whole thing.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. And I'm glad that we brought this up because one of the most recent things, if you look at CNN, so it's an article in there. It's titled "FBI to Seize School Hard Drives" and Kendrick Johnson probe sources. So now we have to get the FBI involved
Wow.
in looking at this, and basically the FBI is supposed to review these surveillance tapes.
Really? Now, is this the same FBI that took tapes from the 9/11 crashings and didn't release all the footage? That FBI?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Eh,
So we can trust them then because
um,
they've
hmm.
proven themselves to release all the information and not hold anything back from the American people. That's awesome.
Right, interesting. And if there's a reflection that we're going to have, it's going to be the latest goings on in terms of legislation, which we wanted to reflect on with you this year. But yes, the FBI will be looking at that videotape since, like the God had mentioned, it's been several months, and the Kendrick Johnson's family has yet to receive any answers about their son's murder.
I think what's important though is that the father was really adamant in getting more. Well, the parents, the family was really adamant in getting more, information released.
Okay.
They didn't just sit back and say, "Oh, he died," whatever.
Right.
So I think that's what's to be taken from it is that the only way things are going to change is if people start doing stuff when stuff occurs.
Right.
Not just saying, "Ah, damn, it happened to me." You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Actually making sure that doesn't happen again to you or anyone you care about or anyone. You know what I
Right.
mean in your
Right.
community. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, who else do we have on the list in terms of people that we need to really reflect on and the developments in those particular cases? We want to talk a little bit about Jordan Davis.
Well, Jordan Davis was another black man who was murdered in Florida behind his music being too loud.
Hmm.
And the Caucasian man feeling like his music was too loud, so he just shot him and killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's obvious, that situation isn't just. But I think the guy actually did get locked up behind it, right?
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that because, again, here we are at News One now, and this article is titled "Jordan Davis's Killer Pens Shockingly Racist Letters from Jail," and there has been quite a bit of correspondence from Michael Dunn while incarcerated in a Florida jail, and this correspondence has been written to his lawyer, and one of the excerpts that was taken out of his letter, which would be deemed to some as being, prejudicial, and I'll let you be the judge. It says, in a letter addressed to his grandmother, Dunn claimed that all blacks in jail acted like thugs. Quote, "This jail is full of blacks and they all act like thugs. This may sound a bit radical, but if more people would arm themselves and kill these idiots when they're threatening you, eventually they may take the hint and change their behavior." So, again, if we're adults, because this is a 46-year-old man, or at least he was a 46-year-old man,
Wow.
and you're talking about someone who's playing their music too loud. You're talking about a 17-year-old. Um, Whatever may be said by a teenager, um, unless that teenager is armed, I have a tendency to take it lightly. You know what I mean? It depends on how you're able to communicate with a child. But one thing that I have to reflect on is the fact that there are some serious racial issues going on in Florida, among other states. But I mean, two of these high post murder cases involving teenagers um, happened in the state of Florida.
Not to
So,
mention the one lady who was in jail behind shooting her ceiling,
Right.
and she got like 25 to life or something.
can you go into that?
Right.
Yeah, I
But
can't
now,
remember her
didn't
name, but
didn't they let her go?
I think
Or
she got bail or
She
something.
got bailed out and they're gonna redo her case or something
Yeah.
like that.
Mm.
But I mean, still, she lost how many years of her
Right.
life behind that? Yeah.
Right. So she didn't put any bullets in anyone but the ceiling, and was in jail. You know what I mean?
Maybe
So.
ceilings are people too, just like corporations are people.
Right.
So
Man, you know,
5 years for shooting the ceiling. You know?
unbelievable, man. For the most part, I know the God wanted to go into Eric Lever and Terrence Rankins. So I mean, when you shared this story earlier this year about how these young men were murdered by four Caucasians, the story is that they were lured into a house and they were murdered. And if I'm not mistaken, were they dismembered or something to
Yeah,
that
they were
degree?
dismembered.
Mhm.
Then these Caucasians proceeded to have sex on their dead bodies.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So, I mean, when you look at these news reports just more in a concentrated or isolated point of view, you begin to ask yourself, first of all, what type of society, because these things happen in the United States of America, what type of society are we living in, and who are we sharing it with? And remember, we did mention this idea of community, and I think all of us, quite honestly, regardless of your skin shade, we need to seriously think about the people that need to be exiled from our communities and our society, and how that exile, how people are exiled. Really, that's an even deeper discussion. But this would be one of those cases that people in any community needs to pay close attention to.
Yeah, I think, if you guys go back and revisit the show that we did, Caucasian versus white, is there a difference?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You'll learn a lot about the psyche of a lot of these individuals who commit these heinous acts. And, for us, it's like, wow, how could they have thought to do something like that? But when you start to realize that there's an actual chemical component as well as a genetic piece that ties into it, then it makes a lot more sense. You know what I mean? So
Indeed, and then you put that together with just the GMOs and fluoride and stuff and your water and shots and vaccines
And bad teachers.
and bad teachers. Yeah, you got the stage set for a lot of madness. It's kind of like that movie. Have y'all seen that the Purge?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay, yeah, definitely got to do the knowledge to the Purge, man.
Let's check it out. Purge. That could be one of the things we view. So we're going to go into the twist this year in shootings and bombings. So before we do that, we're going to take a brief break, and we'll come right back at you. Knowledge Yourself Radio Show. Peace.
Peace.
Peace. Welcome back to the Knowledge of Self radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace, Jarullah.
Peace, Jaquil Law.
And we're going to go into the next segment of our show, which is the twist this year in shootings and bombings. I wanted to hand it over to Jaquil as we start out with a brief discussion about Chris Donner and, some recent information that has unfolded.
Yeah, indeed. So, peace.
Peace.
The interesting thing with Chris Donner, let's start at the beginning. He was alleged to have shot those people. So there was never any concrete evidence. For that matter, it could have been you watching the show who shot Christopher Donner, right? Because there was no evidence of who it was. They just said, we think it was this dude, with no hardcore evidence. You move forward in the case, you get to the end, and they got him trapped in the house, and you have the LAPD on record after attempting to supposedly send SWAT team in, have them on record saying we're gonna burn down the house. So I think that's very interesting how you can release a statement in America that's supposed to be the land of the free, home of the brave. Well, I mean, I guess he was pretty brave, but land of the free, and then they basically hunt you down and say that you did some crime without any proof, and then burn you, not even burn you out of the house, burn you in the house, and get away with it. Yeah, and on that note, there was just a couple of days ago. I'm trying to pull that up. Here we go. There was, and this happened in California, just like Christopher Donner did. You have a man who actually shot officers, law enforcement officers, and they followed this dude into a house. There's a lot of other interesting things in the story, like they sent in some robot police to tell the dude to tell the dude to obey orders and listen to police and come out and surrender. But this dude was in the house, and they didn't burn him down in the house, but they burned up Chris Donner. So I guess you can burn evidence.
Maybe they didn't have the robots yet.
Maybe that's what it was. They didn't have the smooth robots.
RoboCop wasn't ready yet.
Or maybe that was the XJ. What was the other one that it was like, do you want to comply? And the dude was like, yeah, I comply. And they still shot him anyway. Maybe that's why they want to take any risk.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, God. I think one of the things that we can reflect on is that there has been a connection, so to speak, in terms of the wide range of shootings that have occurred just over the last year alone, at least with Christopher Donner and at least the shooting at the Naval Shipyard. The one thing that we're seeing is sort of the aftermath of, among a variety of things, the things that have been changing within gun laws in the United States, the continuing debate about, having access to firearms, the reduction of firearms. And, it's just interesting when you look at a case like what occurred at Sandy Hook. If you're on the side of things where you're asking, should the United States have more strict gun laws? Do you side with the NRA, on some points, or do you side with those who may not necessarily think guns should be held by anyone except for law enforcement.
We should definitely have more strict gun laws. Everyone should have one and learn how to shoot it properly.
Okay.
And then that would stop a lot of this
There's
crap going on.
gun law.
That's the law. You should
Right.
have one and know how to use it. That used to be the law in America. In fact, the government gave out rifles to everyone, and they all had to have some kind of basic training in case that there were some things popped off.
Mhm.
You know, all over history, when you look, anytime they take away guns from people, the people who got their guns taken away from die.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just that simple. It's history, right? Mao did it. Seitan did it. Germany, you know, you name a place where a whole bunch of people died, and they probably didn't have any guns to defend themselves.
Mhm. Interesting point. I think one of the things that came out, especially after the Sandy Hook shooting, was school districts across the country began examining their laws in terms of security, you know, and security procedures and measures. And one of the things that I did mention probably shortly after the Sandy Hook shooting was how some school districts, at least one, Fontana Unified, actually had rifles on their campus, you know, and that had been the case for several years. So now,
And how many shootings have they had?
I haven't heard of any. But you know, the idea is, I mean, I work on a campus where there are armed security guards walking around.
Okay.
You know? And you know, just recently I was having a conversation with some of my colleagues about, you know, who the guns are for, because when you have 4 or 5 or 6 people who are classified as campus security walking around with guns on their hip, and it's just teachers and students,
Right.
you know, the question has to be asked, you know, who are the guns for?
Right.
Now, on the flip side of things, you know, the Sandy Hook shooting, just to reflect on that, it brought up a point that has been, you know, overlooked time and time again. It's just that, you know, our public schools secure for children. When you send your child to a public school, is there this imminent danger that you know, your child may be harmed by some maniac who decides they want to you know, take out their aggression on the lives of children?
In Wisconsin, they call it a school teacher.
Right.
Did
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
That? On a side note, did you know that they're telling, and I mentioned Wisconsin, they're saying that 2 + 2 = 5 in Wisconsin.
Is that right?
They're teaching that to children. There's a lot of other weird things. In any event,
What they sounds like they've been listening to too much Eddie Griffith. You hear that stand up where he's breaking that
1
down?
+ 1 = 3.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of interesting. What's everybody's thoughts in terms of all the shootings? Like, what would
Well,
be
the thing
one of the things that resonates with those things?
The thing that's interesting about Sandy Hook is it's eerily similar to a shooting that went down in the UK in 1996. If you
Yeah.
Google Dunblane School Massacre, Dunblane, an individual, 43-year-old individual, went up into a school, I think it was an elementary school, and it was armed with 4 handguns, and ended up shooting and killing, let's see, it was 16 children and 1 adult, and then killed himself. But what's most interesting about that is shortly after, they amended Firearms Act of 1997, as well as you know, another amendment, it's Firearms Act number 2, which basically made it illegal for anyone to own a gun in the UK. So it's pretty, you know, clear if you look at this and then look at what's been transpiring since, you know, since Sandy Hook and all these other different school shootings as it relates to the government striving to amend, you know, in essence, take our guns away. So, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, not to get all conspiracy theorists on you guys, but have y'all seen the video of the parent who comes to talk to news reporters? Yeah, man, it's cold. So this dude comes out talking to, I think there was a police guy and 2 other people there, and he comes out laughing, right? And he's joking, having a great old time. And then they say, and he's in front of news and all that. They're all posted up, and he's waiting to approach the podium and speak. And then they're like, all right, they kind of nod to him like it's your turn. And dude walks up, and he kind of puts his head down real quick and puts on the tears, and then brings his head up and comes with the sad story.
Right.
So, you know, I say that to say because in other shootings, and we'll probably talk about that, you know, you got the dude talking about he was controlled by ELF. And, you know, you got to think of movies like Manchurian Candidate. And those kind of sciences are real, you know what I mean? Where they can...
Infrasound, yeah.
Right, you know. And there was actually a study that they did, a live test that they did, where they took this guy and they gave him a fake gun, but they programmed him that when he saw a lady with a polka dot dress, I forgot the name of the study, I'll look it up and post it, but he saw a lady with a polka dot dress, that was the cue for him to assassinate this lady. And so in his mind, you know, it wasn't a real gun, obviously, but in his mind, he saw a lady with the polka dot dress, he pulls out the gun and goes to kill the person. And then, you know, afterwards, he's like, I didn't do that. I don't remember, you know, dude doesn't remember anything.
Right.
You know, you got to think about things like that. Also, one thing that all these shootings have in common is that all these people were on the same similar psychotropic drugs. And then when you look at the label on these drugs, you know, they all talk about how they cause people to do mass killings and set up plots to want to kill people, and they bring out all these things that these people are actually doing.
Right, it does trigger. You know, many of those drugs they trigger aggression.
Right.
You know, and again, we always go back to the food and the water that's widely available to people, and then, you know, over the counter prescription drugs, and then just the access to certain types of drugs on the black market. You know, is really interesting to see sort of the aftermath of this. You know.
Not to mention, you know, you think about television and go back to the show that we dealt with, Television, and we go into the science of alpha waves and how those actually affect your subconscious. And you know, you think about the violence on television nowadays. Like like watching television now versus when I was a child. Like, you know, it's
way more
you know,
violent.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I watched Sons of Anarchy, man, and some of the stuff they show on that, and this is just, it's not like it's you know, it's not like it's HBO or anything like that. You know, it's cable, but it's not like, you know. You know, they show people's heads getting blown off and hands getting cut off and all types of gruesome things.
You got to look at the subjective power of that, right? They did a study where they correlated information to showing Shakespeare to people. Women started committing suicide in that manner because they felt some kind of connection to it, right? They showed people jumping off of buildings and killing themselves. They showed it in a TV show, in a movie, right? And then you get someone who copies it. And then you get people who copy the copycatter, right? They say the same things about murder, right? You get one guy who's a murderer, then you get a copycat murderer, and then you get people copying the copycat. So the power of suggestion is there, and they understand the science.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to look at those kind of things.
The herd
and then
mentality,
even in video games, a lot of first-person shooter games, Doom, American Army. That one just tells you straight out that it was made by the Army. That was the whole big spin to that one. But, you know, people don't know, like Duke Nukem, Doom, were games that were developed by the government or to use for military, so they can teach them how to shoot people. You know, programming you how to shoot and just kill kind of instinctively. So, you know, you take, and I play first-person shooters. I don't go out shooting people, but I will say, you know, it's just like when you go watch that kung fu flick, and then you come out the movie theater wanting to punch and kick everyone, right? You know, you're not going to necessarily really try to beat someone up, but yeah, you get a little amped up. So you take that same feeling with someone who has no inhibitions because they're on these weird drugs. And then those drugs promote those kind of things, then yeah, you go from, oh, I'm going to pretend to throw a karate kick at your head to I'm going to really karate kick you in the head to, you know, I'm going to pretend I'm shooting you and blowing some buildings up to I'm going to really blow some buildings up.
Yeah, and then you think about a lot of these first-person shooters, the enemies in the games, you know, a lot of them are original people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I was just playing Battlefield not too long ago, and China is who they're going against.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So
That's deep.
exactly. So it's almost like
That's
they're preparing you,
Yeah.
you know, marinating your mind so that when it's time, you know, to get to that level, people will be more acceptable of it.
Yeah.
You've already been
Uh,
softened up toward that mentality.
That's deep. There's a movie that came out too. I think we told people to check out. It's on Netflix. The day after the war began, they get invaded by Asian. So I'll say Asian people. And there's something else I just watched with my black woman, and she was like, "Yo, why are all those people Asian who are doing those things?" And I'm like, "You know what, babe? That's a great question.
Right.
Why'd you ask that?"
Right.
So yeah, they're definitely preparing the minds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think one of the things that definitely most of us should consider reflecting on was the Boston bombings. You know, especially since you know, when we see you in a few days, you know, it'll be a new year, and then we go into more of a sports season. You know, especially in the spring. I wanted to share what the FBI. In injunction with the Massachusetts law enforcement agencies. They were responding to the fact that whether or not their agencies knew the identities of the people who participated or committed the Boston bombings. And so they went ahead and released something, and you can look at this on the FBI website, which is fbi.gov. And it's titled "The Joint Release from Massachusetts Law Enforcement Agents." And basically, it says that I'm just reading an excerpt. It says, quote, "The Joint Terrorism Task Force was at MIT located in Cambridge, Massachusetts on April the 18th, 2013 on a matter unrelated to the Tsarnaev brothers. Additionally, the Tsarnaev brothers were never sources for the FBI, nor did the FBI attempt to recruit them as sources." And it says there has been recent reporting relating to whether or not the FBI, Boston Police, Massachusetts State Police, or other members of the Joint Terrorism Task Force knew the identities of the bombers before the shootout with the alleged marathon bombing suspects and were conducting physical surveillance of them on April the 18th. These claims have been repeatedly refuted by the FBI, Boston Police, and Massachusetts State Police. To be absolutely clear, no one was surveilling the Tsarnaevs, and they were not identified until after the shootout. So this is what the law enforcement agents in Boston,
Yeah,
as well as the FBI.
It's not like those dudes were on a payroll and they've got actual evidence supporting that they were flying around like superstars and spending lots of money. Nah, that didn't happen.
Right.
That didn't happen. They also didn't have a planned what would happen if someone tried to blow up an event at a marathon, and they weren't planning for that with a whole bunch of I don't know if you guys remember when they said, "We don't want you to look at any pictures that you see of the Boston bombing thing except for the pictures that we release. But what we want you to do is send in pictures for us to look at." They don't want you to look at any one pictures that sends pictures to them, but they only want you to see the pictures that they release. Now, if I was going to cover up some stuff, I would say something like, don't look at anything that anyone else tells you. Just look at the information that I'm going to present you with, and that's the true information. So, I mean, you know, when you do things like zoom out of some of those pictures, you notice that those two aren't the only people that have backpacks and badges on the thing. There was a lot of other people who had backpacks on. So, you know, that Boston event is not necessarily unique in the sense that there was a drill saying what if something was going to happen and then something happened. I mean, you know, we had that same drill for 9/11. What if someone blows up the towers and then magically the towers got blown up? So, you know, they found some people. I mean, they supposedly found this dude. How the story go? They found this dude naked in the boat. someone saw him, but that dude didn't die for whatever reason. That guy didn't. The guy who was naked in the boat, who just blew up the marathon, didn't shoot him, but he had a gun with him. And then that guy got away, called authorities, and then the authorities came, and then they initially shot at the dude in the boat. That didn't kill him, and then what else happened? Didn't like he get his tongue cut out or something else tragic happened to the guy? And so the guy can't speak verbally right now, but he's still trying to say that he didn't do it. And he's also saying, just like the other guy, that he's under ELF, and that he might have been like a Manchurian candidate.
Interesting.
And that's his story.
Well, we have to look into that. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a wide variety of news reports out there. Other people that are, looking into some other sources, and of course, we are living in a time, as you will reveal later, that information is being suppressed, it's being filtered, it's being lost. Is being locked up.
Oops, we can't find it.
Right. One of the things that I want to impress upon all people who live in the United States specifically, do the knowledge on the Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah.
And think about how President Bush's administration for several years did not allow any information from his administration to be released. Under that act. So that was something that his regime, did I say regime? His administration suppressed and prevented the public from gaining access to. Was there anyone want to add on to anything before we take a brief break and come back?
Yeah, I just think if you look at all these incidents that occurred this year in their totality, I can't think of a year that so many incidents has occurred.
Right.
Especially surround,
Boom.
it's like every other week.
Dominoes.
Especially in a year where they're really trying to get these gun laws into place. You know what I mean? So.
Right.
And the drone laws.
And the drones, not to mention a lot of what we're going to build on in the next segment was, getting passed without us really being, really aware of. So.
Right.
I don't want to spoil what's next, but
so on that note, why don't we go ahead and take a brief break, and we'll be right back with you. Knowledge Yourself Radio Show. Peace.
Peace. Peace.
Peace. Welcome back to the Knowledge Yourself radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace, Jarullah.
Peace, Jaquel Allah.
And we're going to go into the last segment of our show where we titled it The Year That Was. So there are a couple of things that we're going to share with you. Few things about some New Year laws for 2014 and also maybe some of the ones that we missed in 2013. I think one of the first things that raise an eyebrow, especially for people like me who work in schools, and I've actually seen it discussed, is the fact that Governor Brown passed the transgender bill. And the way this looks, I mean, in reference to how it pans out in a public school environment, is that you may have a child that is considered transgender, and this law would basically allow a child that is transgender to go into a restroom, utilize restroom, facilities that are classified specifically for one gender of student. So
What constitutes a transgender, though?
exactly, what does constitute a transgender? A transgender child essentially would be, for example, and this is just in my experience, a male that assumes the role of being a female. He will dress up just like a girl, and go so far as to attempting to use the girls' restroom. At least when that happened at my school, before this bill was passed, that student was told, no, you can't do that. So now, with this bill being passed, a transgender child can go into, a male or a female's restroom. Now, one of the things that kind of came up in our discussion is just, it's a matter of, the legality. So now, if this isn't closely monitored and if it's not given more structure, which is why it shouldn't have been put in place in general, because it's going to create a lot of problems if not monitored. A boy can wake up in the morning and go to school and wear a girl's wig and say, you know what, I want to live the life as a woman. Get up and say, I'm going to go into the girls' bathroom. What if he comes out later and says, hey, you know what, I changed my mind. I'm really a boy. Mind. So, there are a lot of things.
Wait a minute, I changed my mind again. I'm really a girl.
Right.
Oh, no, wait a minute.
Exactly. So, and it's going to put schools into a really strange situation.
Yeah. That's already happened in some places where some boys have taken advantage of that. And, I can't say I don't blame them at that young age. What boy wasn't trying to get into the girls' bathroom or locker room?
Right.
And now here's your free pass. You just say that you think you're a girl, and you can be up in there getting your girl locker room party on.
Right.
Yeah.
So I agree, God. It's definitely going to cause a lot of problems and chaos as far as the whole structure of schools now.
Confusion.
Yeah, I can't think sending my daughter into a restroom and then see a male walk into that same restroom behind her. Then there's going to be two males in that restroom.
There'll probably be more once the police get called.
Indeed.
It's just I definitely think that's gonna. We'll see how it plays out. I also understand that we're thinking of expanding that into sports too, right? And allowing.
I hadn't heard that.
Oh yeah. That's a part of the bill.
Yeah,
that's a part of the bill. So if I'm a male who feels like a female, I can play on a female basketball team, and vice versa.
Yeah. You could be a 7-foot center.
Juwanna Mann. You could be.
And that would be in California only, right?
Yeah. Wasn't that the basketball player's name who said that he came out?
Oh no, that's Jason Collins. But Juwanna Mann, remember that movie?
Right.
Nah.
Yeah. It was about this dude who was he was trying to become a professional basketball player.
Okay.
And I guess didn't have the ability, so he ended up thinking of an idea of still making it, So he dressed up like a woman, and he became a superstar in the women's league.
Wow, wow, and now look at today. They got the law passed.
It's crazy.
Well, I think one of the things that if you had been here for the behind the scenes discussion, our president Obama is a very controversial figure. But for the most part, one of the things that raised our eyebrows in terms of the laws
Like the people's eyebrow?
and how they progress. What's that?
The Rock, he's got the people's eyebrow.
Right. I think that would be the right way to do this after this. If you look on the whitehouse.gov website, it tells you a little bit about the executive order that was passed by the Obama administration. It says Obama's new, quote, Executive Order 13524, amending Executive Order 12425, grants the International Criminal Police Organization, they're known as Interpol, rights on American soil that place it beyond the reach of our own law enforcement agencies, such as the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Executive Order 13524, it says here, amending Executive Order 12425 designating Interpol as a public international organization entitled to enjoy certain privileges, exemptions, and immunities. It goes on to say...
Now, wait a minute. Executive order? Aren't we under the Constitution?
Yes, we are.
So wouldn't that be illegal or against the Constitution to make an executive order?
Well, it was amended. So this actually was proposed...
Wait, so he make an executive order and then amend it?
Right. It was...
Using an executive order to amend...
Right, I mean, it was proposed. Further down it says, it is hereby ordered that the Executive Order 12425 of June 16, 1983, which is when it was first proposed, as amended, is further amended by deleting from the first sentence the words except those provided by Section 2. But the point is that this was brought up before in the 80s to give Interpol this type of power on American soil, which is power above the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Yeah.
So if they deem a group, Interpol that is, if they consider or deem a group as a threat in the UK, for example, because Interpol pretty much operates in, they're like the, what's the best way to put it? They would more or less be considered like the European, like CIA, so to speak. But now they're getting a longer arm, so to speak, to reach over into American soil. So if they say they're pursuing a group that's operating in the United States, let's just say the Crips, they would be given the free pass to do whatever they need to do to get that group, according to this particular executive order.
And don't think that kind of stuff can happen. They do gang injunctions. I was just building with True Mathematics the other day. Peace to him, by the way.
Peace.
And he was saying that, they arrested a bunch of vice lords out where he's resting at in Tennessee. And basically, there's only like 4 or 5 dudes who are like, we're vice lords. Because if, you can't be openly gang banging because they just, whether you're doing crime or not, just the fact that you're in that gang is means to put you in jail. And so I see what you're saying as far as Interpol. If they say, hey, we're after XYZ group, now they can just imprison them or do whatever they want to, and you have no no means to fight it per se, kind of, in American court.
Right. I mean, this is again, if you want to, this is not some loose website, so to speak. It will be considered a reputable website. But the information we present to you, we do research it, we cross-reference it before we present it to you. But this is found on the whitehouse.gov website. Our president and everyone involved, they have their own websites. So, check it out. I know that we had brought up one of the things, and this is always a bitter pill for me to swallow, man. Let's go in about the Monsanto Protection Act and just the controversy surrounding that this year. So I wanted to let Jarul go in on that for sure.
All right, so on March 26, 2013, President Obama signed into law a bill passed by the House and Senate earlier that month known as the Consolidated and Further Continuing Appropriations Act, which they call it the Monsanto Act because obviously with that name you can't really detect what they're talking about.
Right. What's that name again? Consolidation.
Consolidated and Further Continuing Appropriations Act, 2013, to provide funding for various federal agencies through the end of the 2013 fiscal year. One of the provisions included in that bill in a section for agriculture, rural and development, Food and Drug Administration, and related agencies was Section 735, variously dubbed the Farmer Assurance Provisions or the Monsanto Protection Act, in inclusion in which reignited a clash between agribusiness, industry, and food safety groups. The former maintains that the farmer assurance provisions prevents activists from manipulating the court system to force farmers to abandon or destroy genetically modified GMOs or genetically engineered crops that have already received U.S. Department of Agricultural Safety approval. The latter asserts that the Congress basically the Congress allows big businesses to, be free from any kind of prosecution in courts. So if a study comes out, shows and proves, which there already have been studies show and prove that genetically modified foods do cause cancer, and I get cancer, I can't go to court and sue Monsanto.
Right. Wouldn't even matter. Right.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that when we brought that up on the show, one of our health shows, that there are so many different things in regards to food production, the ins and outs of using genetically modified foods, and the fact that they're not allowed in other countries, specifically Europe. So I mean, if you have a whole continent, because Europe is a continent.
Countries in Africa too.
Right. I mean, if you have a whole
gonna
continent
say,
banning something and you're not allowing something like that,
Well,
it means a little bit more research has to be done.
But at least even in Europe, Europe they do allow them, but they have to be labeled.
Yeah.
It has to say this food, has ingredients that have been genetically modified. Whereas some countries in Africa altogether will not allow it 100% any GMOs into the country. But America doesn't have to label it, and they
was
allow
it you God that posted that link saying that now even though they do label it, it's not even
things labeled organic aren't necessarily organic.
Wow.
It's basically something, and it's something I kind of figured anyways, because like you look at some of these bananas,
And it's just bananas.
but yeah, exactly. They're like the size of your arm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you're like, y'all didn't get this from the Garden of Eden.
right. But it's just a way that certain people who want to feel like they're doing the right thing by buying organic.
For sure.
It's really just a marketing ploy, basically. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So be careful.
Now, this Monsanto Protection Act what does that have to do with Obama giving Monsanto free reign? What was it to feed Africa? Is that part of that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's connected to this. I haven't looked at the whole bill, but I know that was another, basically another. Order of Obama that he wanted to allow Monsanto to feed Africa, which we know that in essence you're saying we're allowing Monsanto to kill Africa.
Yeah, pretty much. The same thing they're doing to people in India.
Yeah,
right.
And other places in the world. Here in America, even there's farmers that are trying to fight them, and are getting lawsuits just because they had somehow magically a seed of Monsanto found its way over to their farm.
Yeah.
And now they're in a lawsuit, and they don't have enough money to do the whole legal dance like that. So a lot of times Monsanto's just waiting dudes out in court, um, or they're just hitting them with bills so big that they just have to fall out. So yeah, they're definitely. It's not a great thing that they're protecting Monsanto.
Right.
There's one thing I was doing the knowledge on the other day, and it's if you look at the FDA, U.S. Food and Drug Administration website, um, it's a document on there. It's titled Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, CFSAN, Plan for Program Priorities 2013-2014. And there are several things on this list which are classified as goals. And they have them all outlined in regards to the objectives. So,
One of those
and this
goals
one
to
just
get-
jumped out at me today.
Okay.
Before I get to the one I wanted to share as it relates to Monsanto and everything, it says 1.1.4. They're going to, this is one of the program's goals, determine whether guidance levels are needed for arsenic in other foods. So that is a goal. And I mean, it's the
to
WW
determine if it's needed.
right, that's a program goal. Right.
So they
For the
haven't already
FDA.
determined
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. You guys should check this out. But
Wow.
that was the one that just jumped out at me right now. Really, what I was going to share with you. Picture that.
One of the goals to make our dairy product exportable to third world countries, because they still haven't figured that one out either.
I want to make sure. Yes. So for 2014. One of the objectives is to qualify biomarkers or biological indicators that can be used in public health programs. So this is 4.3.2. It says their goal for 2014 is to develop studies that harness the human microbiome to advance nutrition-based endpoints. So, that type of language, again, it supports the idea that, you can mix human genomes with what's found in food and kind of mix them together and make cornflakes for all we know. And not only are these types of things being produced in laboratories, but what they do is when they are put into the environment, they begin destroying the natural environment.
Yeah.
You go down and talk to a farmer in several states where they're left, and you ask them exactly how critical it is right now for them in food production, and how the support or the Monsanto sort of affiliates, how they're affecting farm life and farmland and food production. I mean, it's devastating, man. All you have to do is look at the news. But this is a really good piece of research, to look into what the FDA goals are.
It's important to note that the FDA and Monsanto have like a revolving door as it relates to employees. So a lot of the executives of Monsanto who may step down from Monsanto will start working for the FDA.
Right.
And then they may step down from the FDA and start back working for Monsanto. So, in essence, that just shows that it's really the same organization. You know what I mean?
What's going on with the Supreme Courts and the drug companies? I know that was one of the things that people may have missed in the news this year.
Yeah, this was something that slid under the radar in the midst of, the whole Trayvon Martin situation. But, basically generic drug companies are just like Monsanto. They can't be brought up on charges in court. So, a lot of these companies have, had products or drugs come out, and people take them and develop, debilitating disabilities and liver issues, kidney problems, all types of issues. And a lot of people were winning in court. and they were making millions of dollars off of it. So this Supreme Court ruling just made it so that now, if I take a generic drug and I get sick, I can't go to court. I can't, I can't go to try to get any kind of money behind it. You know what I mean? So, you know.
Well,
Wow.
I mean, how selfish of you to want to take back that executive's yacht trip and his vacation.
Wow.
Just
Why would
because
you
of
wanna
your
do that?
yeah, because of your health issues.
You know?
Jeez, Louise, come on, you got to think of the bigger picture. That's
Wow.
insane. I can't believe that they would allow those kind of things to, and this is the Supreme Court, right? The
Yeah,
Supreme's supposed to
Supreme,
be the most high. So it's
Yeah.
like, man, is that what you guys really think? As far as, again, things like this can also be overturned and repealed, right? As long as people kind of wake up to the thing, and even if you're not fighting it on that level, you could fight it financially, right? You just don't buy any of those damn products, and then
Yeah.
that's simple.
Let's be honest, man. The drugs aren't good for you. They may stop whatever issue that you have, but they're causing a hell of a lot of other issues.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this God right here can speak to the damage it does to the liver and kidneys. And, how that, if you damage those organs, then you're in a hell of a lot of trouble after that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Wow. As we move on, one of the things that you all need to definitely look into, because this was something that maybe a few people got a little bit excited about it, but now, since the laws over the next couple of years are going to support this development, drone laws. There's some information in which you can find is widely available. The FAA, Modernization and Reform Act of 2012, is calling for, quote, the full integration of civilian drones by September 2015. And additionally, the act anticipates 30,000 drones operating by 2020. And we're talking about drones operating in the United States.
Is that
Now,
enough? Do we need more?
I mean, geez,
Well, you got
I mean,
Amazon, right? So
oh, right, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just amazing because when we revealed this information on one of the shows through the current events, it says that one drone can watch everyone in a city. So what would you need 30,000 drones for? Now,
You gotta make sure that you don't miss
kill insects.
I mean,
What is your goal with all these drones?
Well, to me, it would be like, well, what if they feel like, okay, yeah, one drone may be able to watch a city, but can that drone, drop a missile on
Everyone
every person in the
city?
city at the same time?
Right.
Right.
They need them for that. And then you think about, they have satellites that can watch damn near the whole Earth.
Right.
They can tell the
You know
time
what I
on your watch. Man.
And they can find criminals at large that seem to be missing for several years.
But we can't find.
And
Well, they
children.
found Osama eventually, but they couldn't find that dude for forever. I guess satellite doesn't reach that far.
Right. So
But
check
have you
out-
guys seen that movie
check that out.
with Tom Cruise, Is it Oblivion?
I
Where
didn't
they've
catch
got
it.
the little droid thing, and it can recognize him or anyone who's working for the system, but it basically kills anyone else. So that's something to think about. We have Google that just bought 9 more robotics companies, and we all know how right and exact Google is. Opening barges off the coast, trying to spy on people, and has ties with the NSA. So when you think about that, and then they get all these drones, and it's 30,000 drones. God just said one drone can watch a whole city, but if you put 500 drones per se in each city, yeah, that's a whole army that you have to lock down a city.
Yeah, so just tell us, those of you who are in contact with us, how many cities are in the United States of America? That would be a really good thing, and then we can kind of look at what the goals are. for this Modernization and Reform Act. Of
Obviously, the goal is to
2012.
get better delivering for your Amazon package.
Right. I can't really see what you need all those for. You guys can also look at, there's an interesting site of, it has a map of states that have what's known as no drone laws, at www.policymike.com. And this map gives you, a really clear view of which states have not passed laws which allow the use of drones for surveillance.
Wasn't one of
It's
those
only a
states
few states,
California
man.
that didn't pass a law or something?
No. No.
So California has drone
yeah.
laws?
No, meaning they will allow drones. If
Right,
that's your
right.
asking. Yes,
Right.
they're going to allow drones. I think I only counted like maybe 5 or 6 states which are not going to allow drone surveillance.
Wow.
But check out that map, you all. What is this about the gay marriage and the homosexual agenda that some people may have overlooked? I mean, I think.
Well,
we'll all
I don't
be
know how you
going
could
on
overlook that.
You
Everywhere you
can't
turn,
really, guys. Anytime you turn on TV,
you know,
watch a
maybe-
movie,
Exactly. You're not conscious, and you'll probably miss it. But yeah, I mean, everywhere you turn, billboards.
clothes. I bought a pair of jeans that don't fit like a man should be wearing them. I was
Yeah.
like, yo, how am I supposed to execute with my thing all up in the way like this?
No wiggle room, huh?
Yeah, man.
Then you got in the NBA, you have your first NBA player to actually come out as a homosexual
And get a phone call from the
from
president.
the president, right? So in essence, that shows that he supports. You know what I mean? So
Well, you can look at his cabinet and see that he supports that. I mean, that dude's got more gay and lesbian people in his cabinet rather than Bush and Clinton combined.
now, for the record, I'm not saying there's anything wrong. Well, I'm not saying that I'm a. How can I put it? You know, homosexuals have a place, but to promote homosexuality as something that is right and exact, I think is a major error.
Yeah.
Because especially for black and brown youth, who based on what we built on at the beginning of the show, our numbers are dwindling. Another hindrance into the growth of our people is males wanting to be with males and females wanting to be with
Oh
females.
man, I wish I would have pulled up the statistics. I ran across. Did you know that gay men have the lowest life expectancy?
Right.
So think about that when you talk about population control, the Agenda 21 type things. If you push that as being a prominent lifestyle, then you're shortening the life span of people off the bat.
Right.
Right.
Vaccines and all that food,
And
So that's the thing. It's look at it from a global approach. Don't just look at it as one isolated thing. Like when people say, "Oh, the issue with black people is this,"
right?
they're not looking at this, and this.
Right.
There's a whole pie, there's many pieces of the pie.
Exactly.
One of the things I was going to mention in regards to that, just promoting the homosexual and or gay agenda. What the media and some of our politicians have been very successful in doing is promoting a lifestyle to people. And here is my main issue. It's very rare that you see the powers that be promoting a healthy lifestyle, which edifies or highlights the importance of the black male in history and modern day times. We're not really seeing too many images being pumped up, to use Chris Word's lyrics, to be pumped up steadily, which will lead to the positive image of the black male,
Yeah.
or the positive image of the black female. There are all these risque images of these funny lifestyles that people are leading, that's constantly being supported and financed and promoted, but yet if we go back, because you know, I failed to mention this earlier. One of the things that people may have stopped looking at was the murder rate in South Side of Chicago, predominantly black and Latino. The previous year, so this year, it was about 400 homicides in in Chicago, which is supposedly a 100 drop from the previous year. So that means the previous year, which would be 2012, there were about 500 murders in Chicago, South Side Chicago. And I keep saying South Side Chicago because not all of Chicago really cares about what's going on in Southside Chicago.
Yeah, no,
That's our South Central.
yeah,
right?
you're right, God.
Yeah.
Some of the cities, some of the cities in Chicago aren't even under gun-free zone. So the places you look that up, the places where you can't get the gun
Wow.
has the most murder, and the places where people do have guns doesn't have high murder rate.
I remember you building on that. I don't know if you mentioned Washington D.C. But I do remember you bringing that up on a previous show. I gotta look at our show again because I know you mentioned that before.
Yeah,
So
so that's a deep one.
take a look into that. It's called the Gun Free Zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I
one
want
thing, you know, about statistics, and you know, we all have our certain perspective on statistics, is that, you know, it'll say there's been an improvement from the prior year. But say if there was, like you said, you know, 500 murders last year and then 400 this year, that's still 400 dead bodies.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then that's, you know, maybe 400 individuals who get locked up behind that.
Right.
So
And then you
that's-
got to look at what happens as a result of those 400 people, right? So everyone knows how it happens in the street. You kill one person, now I got to kill two.
Exactly.
And so, there was 400 now, but then what's the aftermath of that, right? So how many more murders do you plan on having thereafter?
Right, a majority of those are black men, so you have all those black men not having children.
Right. Or leaving children.
Or leaving children behind.
Uh-huh.
And then that reverts the cycle. And then you got a lot of black men being put in prison behind that,
Yep.
who aren't at liberty to procreate like they should, or even, you know, provide the necessary, you know, foundation for their families. So that has lasting effects. You know.
Right. So where is the image of the black male being promoted on mainstream media to where it's positive and uplifting, and we're seen as educated? You know, again, raging against the machine is more than just telling someone to stop stealing at a liquor store, man. There are a whole bunch of people that are benefiting from our murder and dismemberment and are dropping out. There are a whole bunch of people benefiting from it. And the main thing that I would really like to see is I would like to see a better image for black people in general, from the lighter shade of us to the darker shade of us. I mean, it's so needed, you know. So I know it was the word was Libya. I know that had came up when we were building the show. So I know who wanted to go in on the latest developments in Libya. It's like you hear stuff every week going on there.
Yeah, you know, you just think about Libya and there's, you know, multitudes of, you know, people being murdered, you know, innocent people dying.
Wasn't it that 78 people recently were killed in Libya, like civilians?
Yeah. So, you know, obviously mainstream news isn't really covering these things, but when you think of it more globally, the ramifications, Libya is in Africa.
Right.
So these are black people being.
Can you say that again, please?
Libya is in Africa.
Where's
Just
Egypt?
like Egypt is in Africa.
Okay. Just making sure.
Right. So, you know, you have a large groups of people dying daily. You got their whole existence in a disarray behind them, behind you know, America going in and taking out Muammar Gaddafi,
Right.
who when he was there, they were flourishing. You know, I was reading that you know, they would give you know, married couples $50,000 to start out.
Uh-huh.
A pregnant mother, when she had her child, would get $5,000. You know,
Just here, take this cash.
exactly. You know what I
Man.
mean? And if you're a farmer and you want to start, your farming situation, they'll give you land, they'll give you the resources necessary to make it happen.
Right.
Whereas right now is, hell on earth over there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that raises the question. You got to think, okay, where's America as it relates to the top 10 places to live in the world? They're not in the top 10.
Right.
Where was Libya pre-Gaddafi dying as it relates to being in the top 10 places to live in the world? They were number 2, right? So there's a lot of, you can say whatever you want to say about Gaddafi, what he did, blah, 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 yakety smackety. That's from Tasmania.
which is that's powerful in itself, because pretty soon, man, we gonna be missing like that Tasmanian devil if
Right.
we don't step up, man.
Right.
But
If you want to learn, I don't mean to cut your wisdom. Go ahead.
no, not the I meant to say not the Tasmanian devil, but the actual original people of Tasmania.
Uh-huh.
Wiped out completely. But yeah, it's deep like that. But
Yeah. Like the guy, everything that the guy was saying is right and exact. They had higher healthcare standards. They really took care of the people.
yeah, free. They had free healthcare, free education.
Right. Not the crappy version that like they have in Italy or other places where they're like, yeah, you want free healthcare,
But there's a risk.
in Italy, one of my good training brothers is in Italy, and I was like, so you guys have free healthcare. This is kind of what we're striving to do here in America with this whole affordable healthcare plan, or Obamacare, as you guys know it as. How's it working for you guys? And he goes, it's too expensive, and when you finally decide to go get your free thing, like let's say if you're a female and you want to go get a mammogram, they tell you, well, you can't come now. You can come in like 13 months. Well, damn, in 13 months, the cash, if I did have cancer or something, it would have already metastasized and spread throughout my body when you guys could have caught that 2 months into it versus waiting to 13 plus months to find out if it happens. And so they don't have things like that happening in Libya.
Right. Wow. So I think, yeah, I mean, again, it would take you to speak to someone from there. I remember, man, it's been about 15 years ago now, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see how old I am, first of all. Yeah, it's been about 15 years.
The guy is really a Highlander.
Right. I remember speaking to this brother, who I'll leave nameless, but at some point in time in his life, he had to flee his country because there was a brutal civil war there.
Wow.
And when he fled, he literally could see the forces trying to kill him, chasing him on this journey. And he actually wound up going to the border of Libya, at which time he was allowed into the country. And of course, he had his own, preconceived notions about Libya because of the image that was projected about Muammar Gaddafi. And he said when he went to Libya, he was really amazed. He said, again, it's just like hearing it again from a different person. But he said the same thing. He says, Libya it took really good care of its people. He said when I was there, he said it was just amazing, how happy people were there and things of that nature. And he wasn't creating, like this picture of a utopian society. He was just saying at that time in his life, it was really interesting to see the welfare of the people in that country.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you look at America and its heyday, right, where we had more of a middle class and they were more successful, that was the place to be, right? You could come here and do those kind of things and be more of a success. I say attack the middle class and they kind of widen that gap between the haves and the haves not. You see things like that deteriorate. It's kind of something that you see all over the world. They separate the people who have stuff from people who don't have things, and you get a third world country.
Right. That's a great point.
Yeah, you're right. I have a client. She's from Eritrea, which is not too far, close to Ethiopia and that whole region. But
Where's Ethiopia?
if I'm not mistaken, it's in Africa, right?
It's in Africa too. Okay, huh?
Yeah. So she said herself that like Libya was the place to be.
Mm.
She would say like anything you needed, you were basically given as far as to succeed. Maybe not given everything in that context, but you had your foundation. So
Right.
if you want to start a business, you would have all the help you needed to start a business. Anything. And she was hurt to hear that America was going to go in and do what they were doing. Like she was literally hurt. She was an older woman. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. And a lot of people were hurt like that. Now you wouldn't see that if you're watching American news, but
right.
Well, I mean, since we're talking about countries that do or do not take care of people, I kind of dug this up in reference to the shooter of bin Laden. He was one of the Navy SEALs who went in there and, successfully shot bin Laden. And this was an article dated for February the 11th, 2013, where the shooter reveals that he hasn't received his VA disability benefits, and actually he was going on in this article about how he didn't necessarily qualify, or he doesn't qualify for a pension through the Navy because you have to be a certain age or serve a certain number of years before you can qualify for a pension. So
Sounds
here,
like the NFL.
sounds like the NFL, doesn't it? So here's this guy who
deep.
successfully, he fulfilled a kill mission on one of the most wanted people on the planet,
Allegedly.
and he,
Go do that.
was successful at it. But yet he can't get the basic benefits that he needs for his injuries and things of that nature. Things that veterans tend to suffer.
At least he didn't blow up on the plane with the other people in the SEAL team that they tried to hide from the whole who killed Bin Laden thing. Nor did he get killed like the other people who were on the boat too come up missing like that. So the fact that you don't get your VA disability, dude, at least you're alive.
Right.
Other people.
And those are all the things that we missed in the news. We wanted to bring back. It's been a fabulous year with all of you. It's going to be interesting when our anniversary comes up in February. I just wanted to go into the read, the view, and the do. So the read, the news publication in your area that features new state and national laws. So for example, the first week of the year they're going to bring out a bunch of new laws, local, state, federal laws. Try to get that because they don't bring it out after they bring it out, which is always strange to me.
And then that's definitely important what you said, God, because if you go to court, any lawyer, judge, anyone who deals with law will tell you ignorance of the law is no excuse. And so just because you don't know or you didn't get that publication, even though the guy told you, you should put that on your calendars now, on your Gmail calendar thing or iPad, whatever appointment schedule you have, because like he said, they don't come out again. And if you miss that and you get caught up, your I don't know or whatever excuse you have isn't going to mean anything.
That's true. What are we going to view?
Long Walk to Freedom. This is a movie that was based on Nelson Mandela's life. I haven't seen it all the way through yet, but from what I watched, it seemed pretty good. Stars Idris Elba as Nelson Mandela. So, for those who know who Stringer Bell is, and
yeah,
Idris Elba is a great actor.
I was sad when he went out.
Exactly. Right. And then there's another one called Journey of Man. So if anyone wants to know, how the original man is God, watch that movie, and it'll take you through the genetic Y chromosome and show you, how it's traveled all over the planet, and it's real heavy. So.
And the do, God.
And for the do, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that is youtube.com KOS9, the number 9 radio. And also tell a friend or family about something that you learned on the show this year that you may not have picked up anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. And I know we have a closing quote for today.
Okay, word. If you ask me for my New Year's resolution, it would be to find out who I am. And that's from Cyril Cusack.
True indeed. So I would like to thank, first of all, the Knowledge Yourself Radio Show Collective for making this possible. My brother Jerul, Jakil Knowledge, Allah, Life Allah. I would also like to thank all of the supporters of the show, the people who have come on the show. Infinite God Allah, Sister April.
Kim, Allah.
Yeah, help me list them.
Your brother,
Doctor.
Dr. Taquan Stewart.
Yeah.
Brother from
The fraternity.
oh my God.
Sloan.
Thank you, Sloan.
Brother Sloan. The sister from the Nutritional Healing on
True, yeah.
Facebook.
Born Allah.
Kwamel
Allah.
Right. Gamar.
God Gamar. Did we leave anyone out?
If we did, watch the show that we left them out on.
Right.
Let us know.
Yo, my young guy Kai.
Oh yeah,
son,
Little
Sims.
My young guy.
Man, hopefully we didn't leave anyone out. I even say peace to Bo Kim for calling in. The early part of the show, our work with him was positive. But aside from that, if I forgot anyone,
Mecca.
let us know. Yes,
Mecca,
Mecca. Peace to Mecca. But it's been a fascinating year. It's been a really great year. And we want to thank all of you for being here with us. We hope you have a prosperous, what we call the Truth Now year. And I wanted to let the gods give their best wishes as well.
Yeah, I think for me, when you look at a show like this, obviously we detailed a lot of the catastrophic things that went down in 2013, but there's a lot of positive things that occurred too. But I just think that the biggest thing for me is really know yourself. And by knowing yourself, you're going to care more about not only yourself, but your community. And you'll be more responsible for yourself and your community. So I think, what's important today is that we as a people come together as a collective and start, cleaning up our own house and stop expecting, someone to come in our house and clean it for us.
Yes, sir.
That's how I see it.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Well said.
I'll add on by saying, knowledge is infinite. And so don't ever get to a point where you think you know everything. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And so there's always something new to learn or something deeper to expound upon. You may take something that you already know and take it to that next level of knowledge. And so, we know knowledge is symbolic to the original man. So as long as you continue to learn, you also be learning about yourself and about your fellow man. And, use that knowledge to help bring him to a better place and bring yourself to a better place.
Peace. That was good, and I did wanted to leave. We want to leave this to the listeners, especially those of you who live in quote unquote urban areas or the inner city. You're gonna ring in the new year in a couple of days, and it's a common practice among our people, and man, probably all people. This is where I live. I'm not sure about other places. But when you ring in the new year, those of you in our neighborhoods, please do not take firearms and ring in the new year by shooting bullets up in the air. Because if you do the science on that, you look at bullet trajectories, they always come down faster than when they were shot up. We have babies, we have men, women, and children walking outside. We don't want to get caught by any stray bullets. So please, please, please find some other way to celebrate. Get a fake gun, a cap gun. Hell, get a damn BB gun. If it turns you on, but just please don't do that. Anyone else have anything they wanted to say?
I just want to add on to what he was saying. It was real powerful. I think
Mhm.
for 5%ers specifically, when we think about our degrees, talk about student enrollment first, but once we get to the solar facts, that's not where it stops. So it doesn't say student graduated. That's not the last body of our lessons.
Right. That's a good point, guy.
Right.
So student enrollment simply to me means that we should remain students. And as a student, you remain humble. So when you teach, you can remember that place that you were when you didn't know.
That's powerful.
So that humility and humble, being humble is very important, especially for those who start to learn more and more. You should become more and more humble because you realize there's so much more that you don't know.
Right.
That's
Sure
deep.
did.
I'd like to thank my brothers. We're going to continue this journey in a few days, a new month, a new year. I want to say peace to all our families and thank you all for joining us because you're our family as well. I'd like to say peace to you from the Knowledge of Self radio show. Peace.
Peace.
Last thing.
Yo, Knowledge of Self Radio. You don't have to go to college to do the knowledge.
Peace.
Killed that.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to forget.